When I remember Rangiwahia as I saw it when I was a child, I'm reminded of a story I read some time ago. A parson in New England in the States was driving around his new parish when he saw an old farmer standing at his front gate. So he stopped the car and got out and said good day, and then he said, "Nice place you've got here." "Yep," said the farmer. "How long have you been here?" said the parson. "Always," said the farmer. Well, the parson saw that it was going to be rather difficult to have a conversation, so he let his eyes wander round the rather beautiful scene. Then he turned back to the farmer and he said, "Yes, it's wonderful what God and man can accomplish when they get together and work in harmony." The old farmer took a few moments before he said anything, and then he replied, "I don't know about that. You should have seen the place when he had it on his own." I think the pioneers would probably have agreed with him. One can hardly speak about the life of pioneers without mentioning the hardness that they had to endure. But I feel that in my case tonight, this aspect of my subject has been very well recorded by Ken and Lucy Grover in the booklet they have edited for us, and what a good job they've made of that. So I don't think I need to spend very much time on it now, but I do want to take just a minute to say something about the hard times that women had to endure at this period of our history. You know, we see plenty of pictures of men with their axes and saws on jiggerboards, perhaps with shovels and wheelbarrows in muddy papa cuttings, building roads and putting in the railway. But I don't think we see and hear enough about the hard lot that women had at these times. They lived in dwellings that could hardly be called houses a lot of the time. They mostly had very large families. They had no conveniences at all, no access to medical help when they were having babies and bringing up their children, and I would think they got very little help from their menfolk who were so busy outside. In addition to trying to make a home under these circumstances, they did a lot of manual work as well. And I feel that the way they coped with their hard lot is worthy of our highest praise. I think this is a fitting time to put on record our admiration for the magnificent part they played in the early years of our district. We should not forget these hard times. By remembering them, we know the road we have come, we recognise the place where we are, and we can with more assurance decide on which is the way for us to take. For the future. These are the uses of history. But in spite of the hardness of the pioneers' lives, I believe there are some aspects of them that might well excite our envy as we attempt to cope with life in this post-1984 era. They were fortunate to be living in a new land where the future could be largely as they chose to make it, without the hindrance of protocol and tradition. They saw our district, and indeed our country, in the morning of its day, before the sun had risen, while it was still dark and you could barely see the outline of the ridges against the sky. But over the ranges in the east it was getting light with the promise of a glorious day to come, and with prophetic vision they saw that coming day and the sort of community there could be in this valley. And now, 100 years on, from the perspective that time gives to everything, and with the benefit of hindsight, we can pause and ask ourselves, how well have the dreams and aspirations of these early years been realised? Because we know that much youthful dreaming comes to naught. But in this case I think we have to say that all that the pioneers foresaw has come to pass, and could they join us this evening, I think they would largely approve of what they would see. This was Tanie's domain, and they had come here to wrest it from him. It was a great task, but they brought to it great determination. Long and hard was their labour, but they won, and the results are all around us now. I hope they went to their rest happy in the knowledge that they had done a good job, run a good race and fought a good fight, and knowing that posterity would have proud and grateful memories of all that they had been able to accomplish. And now the last rimu has been felled. Roads have been built, and the logs and stumps have all but disappeared from the hills. Our farms and houses bespeak of prosperity, and they're full of the gadgets and products of science and technology that make life for us comfortable and easy. But I believe that every generation has pioneering of some sort to do, and we are no exception. It is often said, and truly so I believe, and at the risk of being trite, I'll say it again now. Our capacity to produce change has far outstripped our capacity to cope with it. Today we see society in every nation suffering a double assault. On the one hand, scientific invention destroys jobs and upsets life patterns, and we can call this an external threat. And then there is a more menacing potential threat from within by reason of changed attitudes, altered mores, lowered standards, and everything that we might include in the word permissiveness. Between the mighty attacks of these two great forces, our society stands bruised, battered and bleeding, and sometimes it is quite vanquished, as at Aotea Square and Brixton. Often it seems to me that the problems of 1986 are more difficult of solution than were the problems of 1886. And what the results of the present social unease will be, it is very difficult to predict. But of one thing we can be sure: the same traits and attributes of character and attitudes to life for which the pioneers were so famous and which served them so well in their lives will serve us equally well in ours if we will but practice them and be guided by them. These noble virtues, so absolutely indispensable for the creation of the sort of society we all want to see, must not be allowed to become endangered species. They may have disappeared from Lambton Quay and Queen Street, but it is for us to see that they thrive and flourish in our quiet rural communities and up our no-exit roads. As we begin our second century, let us use the memories that we have of our pioneers for inspiration and encouragement when we would be beguiled by indolence and ease and overcome with weariness. And with such an example ever before us, I see no reason why the results of our second 100 years should not equal those of the first. I don't know when the events of 1886 will next be celebrated, but it could well be that in 200 years' time our descendants will gather together again to mark the 300th anniversary of the settlement of Rangiwahia. By that time, lifestyles will have so changed due to the forces I have mentioned that we of the present will be regarded as pioneers equally with the real pioneers whom we honour now. At such a future gathering, someone may well propose a toast and include us with the founding fathers of the district. May we have so lived and contributed to its progress that we will be worthy of that honour.